In February of 1957, on the northern edge of Philadelphia, in a quiet semi-rural area called Fox Chase, a college student walking along a narrow road noticed a discarded cardboard box. Trash littered the brush there all the time, but this box was different. Inside, wrapped in a cheap flannel blanket, was the body of a little boy. He was somewhere between 3 and 7 years old, malnourished, barely 30 pounds, with bruises across his body and small scars that suggested he had undergone some kind of medical treatment in his short life. His hair had been crudely cut, uneven, with fresh clippings still sticking to his skin. His nails were trimmed. He appeared to have been bathed shortly before being placed in that box. The cardboard box itself had once held a brand-new bassinet, sold by a local department store. Thousands had been sold, and no one could trace this one to a single buyer. The flannel blanket was mass-produced as well. The medical examiner determined the cause of death was blunt force trauma. He had been struck on the head, hard enough to kill him. Whoever placed him in that box had done so with a strange mix of care and cruelty. The boy had been cleaned, wrapped, and placed in the blanket as though someone couldn't bear to let him go completely without dignity. Yet they left him to rot in the brush like garbage. Police immediately expected that someone, somewhere, would report a missing child. Flyers were printed with the boy's photograph, and thousands were distributed across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. Post-mortem photos were even retouched to make him appear more lifelike. In the hope someone would recognize him, hospitals, schools, adoption agencies, foster homes, and even neighboring states were canvassed. His fingerprints were taken. Every report of a missing boy was compared, and yet no one came forward. No mother, no father, no siblings. The silence was almost as shocking as the murder itself. The little boy became known as America's unknown child. He was buried in a small coffin donated by a local funeral home, his headstone reading only, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." Detectives refused to let the case go. They looked into every clue, the blanket, the haircut, the scars, the box, but nothing led anywhere. One theory focused on a nearby foster home run by a local family. Investigators searched the property, finding bassinets and blankets that looked similar to the ones tied to the case. Neighbors whispered about harsh discipline there. For a time it seemed promising, but no direct evidence ever linked the foster home to the child in the box. Another theory imagined the boy might have belonged to a transient family, maybe part of a traveling carnival or circus passing through the area. Perhaps he had been hidden, never enrolled in school, never reported missing when he died. But again, there was nothing to prove it. Years later, a woman known only as Martha came forward with a shocking story. She claimed her abusive mother had taken in a small boy, kept him locked in a basement, and beat him until one night she killed him. She said she remembered helping dispose of the body, that she recalled the blanket, the haircut, even the road where he was found. Her account seemed chillingly plausible at first. Detectives retraced her memories. Some details matched, others did not. Neighbors contradicted her story, and records didn't line up. In the end, police could not prove her account, leaving it to linger as one of the most disturbing but unconfirmed theories in the case. Over time, the contradictions piled up. If the boy had been bathed and groomed, why was he also malnourished, neglected, and bruised? If his killer wanted to hide him, why leave the body in a public place, inside a recognizable bassinet box? Was the blanket an act of mercy or an attempt to disguise him? And above all, why did no one ever claim him? That question sat at the center of the case like a stone no one could lift. Decades passed. The case became an obsession for some investigators and volunteers who refused to let the child be forgotten. One man in particular spent years tracing dead-end leads, revisiting evidence, even arranging for the boy to be reburied with a proper headstone. His grave became a place where strangers left flowers, toys, and notes. For a city that never knew his name, Philadelphia did not forget him. Theories continued to swirl. Perhaps the boy was hidden away by his own family, neglected, and fatally beaten before they panicked and tried to cover it up. Perhaps he was the victim of an illicit adoption gone wrong, shuffled between caretakers who never wanted him until one day he died. Maybe he was tied to an institution where children were treated more like burdens than human beings, or maybe he had been abducted by a stranger, though that theory has always seemed the weakest because the grooming, the blanket, and the secrecy all feel like the work of someone who lived with him, not someone who grabbed him from the street. Every theory explains something but contradicts something else. The case resists closure. The facts argue with each other. A haircut suggests concealment, but the public location suggests carelessness. The bath suggests care, but the bruises suggest cruelty. No missing child reports suggest he was hidden, but then who trimmed his nails and bathed him? Nothing makes sense all the way through. The boy in the box lived a short life of neglect and ended in a way that has haunted detectives, journalists, and everyday people for nearly 70 years. He had scars, he had laughter once, he had small joys that no one remembers. He was loved by someone at least once enough to wash him, enough to cut his hair, enough to wrap him in a blanket, and then he was betrayed in the worst possible way. He today, thanks to advances in forensic genealogy, his identity has finally been uncovered. Yet even with a name, the truth about who killed him and why remains elusive. The why may never be answered. Some crimes never resolve into a neat motive or a courtroom confession. Some crimes just leave us with a child in a box, and questions that multiply instead of fade. The city of Philadelphia still visits his grave. Volunteers still bring toys. People who never knew him still whisper, "You are loved." For a case that makes no sense, that is the one thing that does. A promise that even the forgotten will not be erased, that even America's unknown child will be remembered. And if you want more haunting true crime stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. There are countless cases like Joseph's, each one a chilling reminder of the mysteries still hiding in plain sight.